Hi guys, welcome everyone. My name is Vera and today I'm going to show you how to paint our super festive gnome. So before we start, let's go through all our supplies to make sure we have everything that we're going to need for today. First thing you're going to need is a canvas. You can use any size. I'm using fairly small, as you can see, in comparison to the size of my hand. This is 8 by 10 inch, but you can use bigger or smaller. Entirely up to you. My instructions are not size specific, so any size will work. Next thing you're going to need is a pencil because we're going to start with a sketch. And of course, if you have an eraser, that's a bonus because just in case, your first lines are not perfect, you may want to rework them a little bit. Then we're going to need acrylic paint, or at least that's what I'm going to be using today. Oh, we don't need this hair. Let's move it. I'm going to be using just the primary colors. If you guys painted with us before, you're familiar with the paint that we use. I'm going to be using black, white plus yellow, blue, and red. And I'll be mixing them into every single color you can see here. Now, if you have green pre-mixed, you're welcome to use that. You don't need blue in that case. The only reason I have blue is to mix my green. So if you have pre-mixed green of any shade, preferably on a darker side, you're more than welcome to use it. And that brings us to brushes. I will be using pretty standard set of brushes that we normally use, which is large, medium, and small. For my large and my medium brushes, I'm going to be using square brushes, and for my small brush, I'm going to be using a nice detailed brush with a pointy tip. If you don't have square brushes, that's not a problem. You can use rounded, pointy for a medium and large. Honestly, any brush that you have is good. It's just good to have a variety of brushes. That way you can use some larger brushes for larger elements, medium brushes for medium elements, and small detailed brush for just the details. All right, and if this is again your first time painting with us, I just want to mention that you're free to pause this video at any point after it premieres. During the premiere, I don't think you can have the option of pausing, but as soon as the premiere is done and you can come back and rewatch this, it's not going anywhere. So if let's say you accidentally stumbled on this and you don't have supplies with you, that's okay. You can come back another day and do this. Just save the link somewhere safe, maybe in your notes or wherever you normally save things, and then come back and do it anytime. All right, so what I'm going to start with here is my pencil. Grab your pencil and we're going to start sketching our gnome. And guys, you can do it however you want. So let your imagination fly free and do whatever you feel like. He doesn't have to look exactly like mine. You can make him completely different. So what I'm going to start with is putting one circle for the nose right in the middle of my canvas. So identify where the middle is. I put a circle there. You can make it bigger, smaller. That's totally up to you. It's going to be your nose, the nose of your gnome. So it actually looks a little bit to the left. So let's just clean it up a bit. Let's maybe move it a little bit to the right here. Okay, that's better. All right, amazing. Now that I have my nose, I'm going to add a hat. So the hat is going to be a line right above nose. So you see it touches the nose right at the top. And you can make it, and it's going to be curved. It's like a little curve pointy towards the top. That's our hat. You can make it bigger, smaller, and again, you can start with something and then you're going to rework it. Once we position every single thing, once we sketch everything, you can go back and erase it and correct it. So you're not really stuck with your lines until we move to the painting. So place it somewhere, and then if you don't like it, we'll change it. So something like this. After that, I'm going to wrap it on the sides up and add a second one. Okay, weird shape, I know. After this, we're going to move on to our hat, and you're going to make your hat any shape. So in my case, it's pretty straight-ish, and then it wraps to the bottom, so it turns to the bottom. It makes a little loop right here on the right. You can make your hat really wiggly if you wanted to. Like you can do something like this if you really wanted to. You see, really wiggly. I know it's hard to see like this, but still. That's one option. You could do it completely straight pointing up, like it doesn't have even to have, the curve. You can do anything you want with it. And now I need an eraser. Let's see. So you make your hat however you want it to be. Feel free to maybe even try a couple of versions. You can do it with a very light outline of pencil. Kind of make a little sketch like I did right now and see which one you like more. And then erase whichever one you don't like. And go over with a darker, with more pressure and pencil again over the one that you do like. As I mentioned, my hat is pretty simple, like it's not crazy complicated. Ta-da! Okay, moving further. Now I'm gonna do the mustache and then the beard. So the beard should be about the same size as our hat. So if this is how big my hat is, my beard is gonna be pretty big too. So our gnome looks proportional, because if you make a really small beard, then he's gonna be all hat. If you make a really large beard, he's gonna be all body. Not that there's anything wrong with it. Gnomes come in all sizes and shapes, so it's totally fine either way. But I personally like my gnomes when the half of it is hat and half of it is body, approximately. So I'm gonna do mustache. Again, there are options for mustache. You can do something like this. Do you see? Really funky mustache. Or you could do just a plain straight how I did it originally. So something like this. So I'm gonna go with funky this time, because why not, right? I already did a plain hat, I may as well do a funky mustache. Will be fun. Awesome. And now we're gonna add beard. Again, you can do a pretty plain beard the same way that I did it originally on this painting, which would look like this. So again, super plain. Or you can make it really funky, which I think I will do the funky version. Because why not, right? So let's just shape it up a little bit, zigzag it up, funk it up. Notice I said funk, not anything else. All right, there we go, funky hat. And now we're gonna do body and the mitts and the legs. So the body, we're gonna start with hands. They're gonna come out from anywhere in the beard, depending how wide your beard is. Your beard is wider, then the hats are gonna be seen lower. My beard is not that really wide. It's about the same size, even a little bit thinner than my hat is. So I could technically start my hands a bit higher. And then there will be a little sleeve here. So there will be this part on the sleeve, right? And then there will be little mitts. We're not really drawing the mitts. We're just assuming that they're there. All right, and then we're gonna add a little legs or big legs, whatever works for you. So in my case today, the beard is gonna be a little longer. It's totally fine. You could put legs right at the end of the beard. You can have beard a little bit longer. It's whatever works for you guys. Okay, awesome. And now I'm going to, I'm assuming there's a little bit of shadow here. You don't need to sketch that. And then I am going to just add a couple lines for my branches to know where the branches are gonna go. That is not super necessary. That's easy to freehand as well. If you much rather freehand it, that's fine. And everything else I'm not gonna be sketching. I'm just gonna freehand it all. All right, put the pencils away. And now we're gonna move to painting. So I'm gonna start with my background. I will take my large brush, or the largest one out of those that I have. I'll dip it in my water. And I'm going to take straight white paint and I'm gonna go right onto the middle-ish of my canvas. So I would say about 70, even 80% in the middle of my canvas. I'm just gonna cover with vertical lines in white. Honestly, even 90 maybe. So a lot of it in the middle. I'm gonna color with white. Notice I'm not really careful around my lines. I'm going right over them because I can still see them. So I'm not really losing them. And if I'm losing something, I can easily recover it later too. It's not a big deal. So I'm covering a big chunk of it with white. And I'm doing this for blending purposes. I want this to be my blending backdrop of white to make the gray adding easier. So look on a shadow, sorry, not a shadow, the glare, how much white I added. Lots. Honestly, the only thing I didn't cover is the edge. And now I'm gonna make my light gray. So I'm gonna scoop some white on the side, take some black. Oh, that's a lot of black. More white. You always want to add just a little bit of black because black is a very dominant color. You don't want to add anywhere near half because black will overtake everything. It's very dominant. So that's why we're going to add just a little bit of black and then we're going to start flicking it from the top and the bottom. So do you see, I added from the top and then I blended into that blending white that I added for a reason. Then I have this slightly darker edge and lighter middle because as I go down, it blends with my white. And a couple brush strokes you can bring a little bit lower down, a couple brush strokes keep higher. That's totally up to you. And then I'll do the same thing with the bottom. All right, there we go. If you guys want to do your edges, it's best to do them right away. So if you wanted to, you could just take the same gray and go right over the edge and color the edge of your canvas. It is always easiest to do it right away, but also you can always do it later too. It's not like you have only one chance to do it and it's now. No, you could totally do this later if you prefer to do that later. But I don't like going back, so whenever I'm doing the color match, I try to do my edges right away, especially if I'm not holding my painting and it just rests either on my easel or on my table, then I don't see a reason why not to do it. All right, there we go. All done. And I will add a little bit of darker color too. So now I'm going to make a gray that's a tiny touch darker. So to the same color, I'm just going to add a little bit more black, not a lot. We don't want it super dark. We just want it a little bit darker. And I'm using only a little bit of this paint. I'm just going to flick it from the top and from the bottom in a couple spots. Do you see? Just to break it up a bit so it has some variety. As the variations of shade of gray. Do you see? A bit some darker areas, some lighter areas. I'm not covering everything with this color. Beautiful. That looks really good to me. All right, Now I'm gonna place my first layer of red because I always like doing multiple layers of red because I find that it's the best way to get them really vibrant. So I'm gonna do first layer now and let it dry, and then I'm gonna do second layer. You can use whichever brush seems the most appropriate. For me, probably the medium brush. And I will be mixing my red and yellow only because I like the color mixed two together more than just straight red. So my straight red, it's not a big difference between the two, right? But this one is a bit on a pinker side. If I take it more transparent, right? You can see that's a bit pinker. But once I mix it with orange, it becomes more like a fire truck red. It has that, it's just a little more vibrant. So that's what I'm gonna use. And I'm gonna go ahead and I'll let my first layer of red. Again, use whichever brush works for you. If medium works, great. If not, small brush is a really good option too for a smaller canvas such as mine. If you're using larger canvas and you feel like, oh, this will take me years, use large one, whatever works. Whatever you think is the most appropriate brush for the size of your canvas, use that one. There we go. And I will do the same for the sleeves. Maybe I'll even use small brush there because it's a little bit smaller areas, trickier to get with a medium brush. So scoop some red again, add some yellow, mix them up. And the mid. All right. We're gonna add some here. Good stuff. So now I'm gonna let it all dry. And we'll move on to our white for now. Actually, let's do maybe the skin tone. So originally I did a light skin tone. He is a pinky one, but you can do any skin tone that works for you, of course. So I am going to make a darker color than what I need at first. So I'm gonna take, it's gonna be reddish pinky. So again, red, yellow, and a little bit of white. For browner skin tones, you just have to add a smidge of black. So that's gonna be one color that I'm gonna take a little bit of that and I'll make my second color. And with the second color, I'm gonna color in all the sections that involve skin tone. All right, now that I have everything flat, I'm gonna add my wrong color. This one, the darker color that we made originally for the outlines. It's gonna look almost reddish and that's okay. And then I'm gonna take straight white, wash off your brush in between, of course, and dab it off on paper towel. And take straight white, and with the straight white, I'm gonna go ahead and lighten up everything in between. And maybe I'll even take it a little bit more white, just like a straight highlight. All right, awesome. Now, as everything is drying, I can move on to the areas that are going to be white, which is the pom-pom, the rim of the head, the mustache and the beard, and this fluffy areas here. I'm going to start with the beard and mustache because those seem like good areas to start. So I'm just going to cover them fully with white. Again, use whichever brush that seems comfortable. For me, I'll start with a medium and then I'm going to switch to a small. I'll do what I can with medium. And once I can do nothing else with it, I'm going to switch to small. Again, I'll take some white. I'll just cover everything with white. All right, so what are we gonna do now? Let's add a little bit of light gray. So I'm gonna again scoop some white on the side, add a little bit of black, mix them up, fairly light gray. And I'll water it down a little bit to thin it up. I like using a thinner paint for fine details. And with this, I'm gonna go on my mustache and my beard. And from here, I'm gonna add that lower outline to the mustache. And then I'm gonna flick some lines down. Just adding some shadow and some texture. Because we want to separate mustache from the beard, right? We want one to be lighter, one to be darker. Then I'm gonna go on sleeves and I'm gonna add, do you see it, this gray right around the outside? But I'm doing more like a little dabs to keep it fluffy. The same with the top. I'm not really doing lines. I'm doing more like a little dabs that form a line, but I'm not really making it out of straight line. Doing it out of little dabs to keep it nice and fluffy. And I'm going to show you guys closer in a second what that looks like. One side, my fluffy line. Do you see nice and fluffy? Nice and fluffy. Same with this edge of a pom-pom. Nice and fluffy. And mustache. So now I'm gonna add some from the nose. And you want to add just a little bit of gray going through all of the mustache, but just don't overdo this. You don't want to turn the whole thing into dark gray. For those who are doing a weirdly shaped one as mine, there's no particular pattern you have to follow. Just as long as there's a little bit of gray throughout the whole thing, that's great. For those who are doing more straight one, you could do the top. So from this end and from that end, from the front and from the back, just a little bit. From the middle and from the outer edge. And maybe I'll even, so I washed my brush, tapped it off on a paper towel. Maybe I'll even take a little bit more white now to blend some of it so it doesn't stick out too much. All right, my red is not dry yet. Now I have to let this white dry as well. So the only thing I could really work on right now is going to be my background, because everything here still has to dry a bit. So I can move on to, oh, and my legs. So I'm going to move on to my legs and I'm going to make them in gray. So about medium gray, I would say, is what I'm going to do. All right, those are the legs. And right away, you can take a little bit of white and just highlight the tip here while it's still wet so it blends a little bit. And then we're going to add white later that's not blended. This one we want to blend it. All right, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a bit of shadow around our gnome. So you could do it with any gray. It depends how dark you want your shadow to be and how comfortable you're blending. So if you're not really good blender, I would say keep it light. If you're really good at blending, you could even go with straight black. So let me show you. So you're going to take any gray or black. Again, if you're not comfortable, if you want to give yourself a bit more margin of error, you can go light. It's really hard to mess up light. If you go dark, it's easier to mess it up. So I'm going to go with this color because I already have it prepared. And I'm going to show you what to do. So you're going to be adding a little bit of it, watered down on a side of your gnome. Don't do all the sides. Choose one spot and do that one spot. We'll do one spot, we'll blend it, and then you're going to move further. Do you see? I added it. Now I'm going to wash with my brush, lightly dab it off on a paper towel, and with a clean, slightly wet brush, I'm going to blend that outer edge of that brush strokes that I added into the background. So it looks like a shadow. That's what you want it. You want it to look like a little shadow. Do you want to skip this step? Go ahead. It's not a requirement, this step. What it does, it almost separates your gnome from the background a little bit. As you can see right here, I have this little slight dark sections. Do you see? On a background right here. It kind of makes it pop a little bit and puts a little bit more space between the gnome and the background. But it's not an important step. It's not an essential step. It's very, very optional step. So if you feel like, nope, that is not, I didn't sign up for this, not my level of expertise, just, you know, not comfortable doing it, skip it. Not a big deal. So again, add it a little bit, blend it. You can use medium brush for blending too, or even large. It's again, it's whatever your preference is. I find my canvas is pretty small, so I'm using a small brush a lot, only because it's just small. So I find it easier. But honestly, the blending can be done with any brush. See, that's my large brush. Let's see what else we're gonna do. We're gonna put this here. And same. Well, maybe even blend it with large one. Why not, right? For the bottom, actually, let's do the other side first, because for the bottom, we're gonna add a lot. All right, I'm gonna make it a little bit darker for the bottom. I'm gonna add my bottom. Still quite transparent. Oh, looks pretty good. All right, let's see what we can work on next and what is dry. My red is not fully dry yet, so I probably wouldn't go there just yet. I'll give it a couple more minutes. But my white and my gray are better, so I'm gonna go there. And you're gonna make darker gray, and we're just gonna do the same thing that we did with light gray, but just with darker gray. It doesn't have to be super dark, it doesn't have to be full on black, just darker than what you had. And again, I'm just gonna use the very tip of my brush and do fine lines. So again, now I'm just gonna add a bit more, what feels like an outline to all of that. So you see, I'm just adding a bit of the outline, a bit of contrast, not as much as you did with your first color, not as much as you did with a lighter gray. All right, there we go. Okay, now I can move to my hat. So I'm gonna do second layer. Again, use either straight red or mixed color, whichever you prefer, or not even red, whatever color you're going with. And I'm just gonna go to second layer and you will see. Before it was slightly streaky, not super vibrant. Now it's gonna be super vibrant and not streaky at all. So it's gonna be fun. Color is gonna improve a lot. You know what? Let's add a little bit of that onto my nose here too. All right, I feel happier now. I like it. So before it all dries, I'm gonna take a tiny smidge of white on my brush, whichever brush I'm using, medium, and I'm gonna add it right here in my super wet red to lighten up a little section right here. All right, and now I'm gonna make a darker version of my red. So again, I make the same red, whatever red you were using, and now I'm gonna add a little bit of black to it. This may have been a little too much, so let's just water it down a bit with more red and yellow. And with this color, it should look like a dark wine. Something close to burgundy, maybe brown, maybe a bit purplish. And with this color, I'm gonna add a bit of darkness on each side of my hat, more on the right side than on the left. I will add with a medium brush wherever possible, and whenever I cannot do with a medium brush, I'll switch to small and I'll do it with small. And I will do some on the inner side of the arms as well. If you wanted to add even darker color, so maybe even straight black, you can. So I did my dark red, right? And now I'm just gonna go with straight black on the darkest sections. But again, it's not super necessary, just adds a bit of contrast. So do you see? Just the very corners. And I'm doing all of this while it's still wet, so it blends easier. All right, now to oh, sorry. Wrong language. Wrong language setting in my brain for a second. Problems with being bilingual, trilingual person, sometimes your brain switches to a different language randomly. All right, so now I'm gonna add a bit of dark black, so just straight black on any areas that I want to add a little bit of contrast to. So I want to add contrast to the ends of my mustache. I want to add contrast a little bit to the middle here around nose. Just make sure those lines are super, super fine. Even a little here. The feet. And I'm going to take a bit more black and I'm going to darken up the side of the feet, the inner side of the feet. And again, add some on the outline. And with just straight water, I'm going to blend it a little. And then I'm going to even take a bit more of straight black and add it on the shadow here. So you're not going to cover all your shadow with straight black, but you want to enhance it with straight black. All right. And now I'll take just a little bit more white and I'm going to add a glare to the shoes that's not blended. And maybe a bit of glare to the nose and the skin that's not blended. And ta-da! Our Gnome is done. So now I'm going to move to background again. And I'm going to add the branches. I'm going to use the medium brush, but you can use small brush too. It's whatever works for you guys. And we're going to start by making our medium green, medium dark green. You're going to take some yellow, some blue, mix them up in no particular proportion. If you want it darker and colder, add more blue. If you want it lighter and warmer, add more yellow. This is what mine looks like. As you can see, it's fairly dark and cold. And with this color, I'm gonna go ahead on my branches. If you didn't sketch your branches, you can sketch them now. If not, you can just follow the sketches that you already have. Either is fine. And then from there, you're gonna fluff them up. So I'm using the top edge of my medium brush and I'm doing flicks from the line out. So this is what it looks like. You can just as well do this with a small brush if a medium brush is not working well for you, or it's too big, or it's just not giving you the desired effect. You can do this with a small brush, or you will have a lot more precision. Like a small brush allows for a lot more precision, which is why actually I use medium brush, because I like it a bit fluffier and a bit less precise. I like a bit of a messier look, but that's not everyone's cup of tea. So if it's not yours, use a small brush. You'll find a lot more control over it. And then I'm going to do that to all of them. And for those of you guys who are doing your edges, you want to bring this onto your edge as well. So anything that goes to your edge goes around your edge. So bring this onto your edge as well. And fluff it up there too. So then when you hang your painting on a wall, it looks really good and complete from every angle possible. See? Wraps around. And I'm going to do the same on the other side too. Awesome. Now with a small brush, I'm going to add darker and lighter color. So darker color, I'm just going to add more blue to this and a smidge of black. That's my darker color. And with the darker color, I'm just going to add a couple of flicks on a lower side of each branch. Just a touch. Again, ideally you want to wrap that all around the frame of your canvas if you're doing your edges too. And for lighter color, you could either, if it's still super wet, you could just use straight white, or if it's already dried, make your teal again, sorry, not the teal, the green again, and then add a little bit of white to it to make a lighter version. But for me, because it's all super wet, I can just add straight white, and as I add it, it will blend into that lighter green. So I don't need to manually blend it before adding, which is always a benefit. Like if you can just save a step and do it in one step, why not, right? You can simplify things. Simplify things. All right, that's our tree with, we're gonna add ornaments in a second, but actually before I even add ornaments, I'm going to add the Christmas lights. So now you're just gonna use straight black on your small brush and you're gonna wrap them however you wanna wrap them. Just make sure they're interesting. For me, the one is gonna be going above and one below. You can have just one wrap around him, so you can do it like this. Let's say go here and wrap around the hat and go there and go on the floor. There'll be just one string. You could do two strings like I did here, around the branch, around hat, around other branch, somewhere there, and then second one on the floor. You could have multiple strings. You can have a couple strings on the top crossing, right? You can have just a couple strings going through the floor and wrapping around his feet maybe. It's honestly wherever your imagination takes you. So whatever you want to do with it, do that. I'm gonna do this. Like again, as you noticed, I'm not doing the exact same thing that I did before. I'm just improvising and seeing what happens, right? So that's what it's all about. You just wrap it in a way that seems pretty, makes you happy. Done. And now I'm gonna start adding the lights and the Christmas ornaments. So for me, it was two ornaments, one yellow lower here, one red somewhere there. You could stick with the same, or you can do any other side, any other sizes, any other places. So for white one, for the yellow one, you will mix a little bit of white and a little bit of yellow. So it should still be visibly really yellow, but still mix in at least a little bit of white. I'll position this one here. And my red one, I'm not going to mix anything into red. I'll just use it as it comes, just straight red. Let's put it maybe right here this time. Okay. And now I'm going to do the Christmas lights. So my Christmas lights don't go, let's say, one yellow, one red, one yellow, one red. In some areas they do, in some areas they don't. So they are really in no particular order. So you're just going to start with one color. I'm going to start with red. And you're going to position a couple of those light bulbs wherever and however you feel like. Just make sure you leave enough space for the yellow ones as well. But you don't have to count out the space and so on. All right, that's red. Now I'm gonna do yellow, again mixed with white. That's important. Doesn't have to be super light, but it has to have at least some white mixed into it. So some yellow here, here, here. Again, anywhere. I'm just filling the space at this point with those yellow ones. And now I'm gonna add the black again. So again, I'm gonna go back to my small brush, wash it off, dab it off on a paper towel, take a little bit of black just on the tip of my brush. If you need to water it down, in my case, it's already watered down. And I'm gonna add a little dot above my ornaments. And then a tiny loop, oops, that was a little too much water, to hang them on my branches. That's one. And then I'm going to connect every single light bulb to the string. So I'm just going to add a little dab of black in between the light bulb and a string. All right, and now I am going to add a little bit of black in my ornaments just to bring a little more contrast. I'm going to add a tiny touch of black on the outline of my ornaments. And after that, I'm going to add white highlight. So again, I'm going to wash my brush, dab it off on a paper towel, take a little bit of straight white, and I'm going to add a little dab to every single ornament. It's better if you do one color first and then the other, so it doesn't get muddied on your brush. So I'm going to go with the red first, sorry, yellow first. I'm going to add a little bit into my ornament too. And then I'm going to do red. All right, and I will finish up by adding, by dividing all of this onto 3 wood boards. So I'm going to take again, one more time, a little bit of black and just visually divide it in 3 first. I'm going to add one line here. It doesn't have to be a solid line. Notice I'm intentionally making it sort of broken up. And then second line on the other side. Again, sort of broken up a little bit. And I'm going to take straight white. And I'm going to follow onto my lines a little bit. So right beside it, you want to follow a little bit of white. It's almost like a little highlight. And then I am going to add a whole bunch of white. So those are going to be my white snowflakes. I'm going to be doing blizzard. So it's going to be super blizzardy, lots of, white fluffy snow flying around, brush strokes. If you're not that into that kind of stuff, what you could do, your other options would be, you could dot it up. So you can grab any brush that has a rounded back end and you could do this instead. So you can do nice, perfect little dots and lots of them and just spread them around anywhere you want, over your gnome as well. So that's option number 1. So do you see? It's less crazy. Option number 2, you can literally just splatter. You could grab one brush, preferably large, fill it with white all the way. Notice how it's all the way into the bristles of my brush. Not a blob, rubbed all the way into the bristles. And then you hold clean brush in your left hand, brush with paint in your right hand, and you bang over the clean one, fairly close to your canvas. And notice, creates this beautiful fireworky splatter. That's option number 2. But what I am going to do is I'm going to take my small brush, a little bit of white paint, and I'm going to add a little brush strokes all around. It's going to look like a real blizzard here. I'm gonna give it that seriously, you know, with its nose and there's large snowflakes flying around slowly. That's the look that I'm going for. It's gonna be messy. It's gonna be big, almost like abstract. So it's not for everyone. That's why I'm giving you guys different options, because I know that if you are a perfectionist, you may not love this one. If you're not abstract artist at heart, you may be like, oh, this is crazy business. Or if you just really like control, you may not love this. So in which case, try to go with either dots or the splatter, because they are more controlled. Dots would be the most controlled option, splatter semi-controlled, and this one is just a crazy business. But I love it. I love lots of snow. I love the snowfall. And then last thing you're gonna need to do is sign it. So find a good spot and you can put your name, your initials, or anything else that you would like. I'm gonna put my initials right here. Ta-da! And I'll also extend this wood split lines onto the edge of my canvas. Do you see? Now it actually looks like a wooden board because it goes all the way. And after that, we are officially done. Well, thank you guys for joining me. Oh yeah, maybe extend this, what are the name of them? Strings as well. Well, thank you guys for joining me for this beautiful festive painting. I hope this gnome finds a home in your house. And happy holidays, everyone. I'll see you again next time. Oh, and feel free to share your results on our in our Facebook group. We have a group that is specifically dedicated to people sharing their results. If you search by Artist Palette Durham in the group section of Facebook, you'll find it, but also the link in the description of this video. So you feel free to show us how it looks like in the group. We'd love to see how it turned out. Thanks for joining me, guys. Bye, everyone.